Hi, welcome to Quat Pod. My name's Al Yates. Please like, share, and subscribe as you do. This has been recorded following the result of the Devon derby. We knew we had a tough run in. It was obviously a slightly disappointing result, but we have to go again. And for now, we've got a player that played for both teams. Please enjoy and straight into the interview. Take care. Hi, welcome to Quat Pod. My name's Al Yates. You know me by now, so we're just going to carry on. Today, this is going to be an interesting one. We're going to be authentic. If we get a few connectivity problems, it's because my guest is, I believe, camped out somewhere in the middle of Dartmoor. I mean, only joking, he lives there. Now, I'm going to introduce him. He's a mature member of Exeter City royalty, as far as I'm concerned. He was part of a team that actually hooked me absolutely completely on following Exeter City, and we're going to talk about that in time. He was born in Ealing. Played for QPR. I did not realise this. I did not know his history because I was quite young. I was a babe in arms at the early part of his career. Sorry to say that. 15 games for Queen's Park Rangers, 72 to 74. I would have been about 3. He then got sold to the dark side of Plymouth Argyle for 30,000, and they got quite a good value for money out of that deal because he played 132 times between 1974 and 1978. He may have played in a derby match, which we'll come into for the dark side. But he then came to the good side because he played for Exeter for over 215 games. He scored 20 goals. He was a central midfielder with a fabulous beard, which he hasn't got now, which is why I didn't recognise him when introduced. And they haven't worked out already. Good morning, Mr. John Dalf. How are you?
Morning, Al. Yeah, all good, thanks.
Right,
quite an introduction as well, thanks.
Absolute pleasure. And technically, we've had a few problems. We're going to give it a go on this one. If there are a few minor pauses, we are authentic. So he also played for Hereford United after Exeter. He then went to Gloucester City, and I believe you came back in 1988. Were you caretaker manager or were you manager? When did that happen?
Yeah, it was caretaker. Well, I came back. Tony Keller was the promotions manager at the time, and he asked me to come back and basically help him with the promotion side, which I did. And I don't know how it come around now. I can't even remember how I got involved with the training side. I went training again with the teams. And Colin Appleton was the manager at the time. And all of a sudden, one day we went in for training on a Friday, I think it was. And all of a sudden, Colin had disappeared and gone.
Really?
So,
along with his sheepskin coat, a proper 70s sheepskin coats, didn't he?
Yeah, I could have something to do with that. Yeah. So it was quite strange. And then just all of a sudden, Ivor Doble was the chairman then, came into me and asked if I would look after the side for a bit, which I did for about 6 months till the end of the season. Yeah.
Which you did, and also on my little trawl of X-Web social media, and I've put your name in, it came out as a natural leader, and it was no surprise because I think I'm going to show my ignorance a few times. You did captain the team as well, didn't you?
Yeah, apart from PPR first team, I captained all the sides I played for. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, and I thought that was quite an achievement, really. Especially at Plymouth when I first went there. Only 21 then, and obviously more experienced players around. But Tony Waiters put his faith in me and made me captain. Yeah.
That I have to say, at 21 is a massive achievement. No surprise from me. So let's go back a bit to the early days, right? Proper early days. And I'm going to contextualize you a little bit for our younger fans. A really good engine central midfielder with an eye for a goal is how I would describe you. Now, who was the team you supported as a lad? Because I guess you're up in London, were you?
Oh yeah. I was outside London, actually the first games I went to that my dad took me to, actually, I was a Brentford follower.
Really?
In those days, that was the closest pro club to us, where we lived. So the dad used to take older, I went round to other clubs and Fulhams and the Chelseas and the QPRs, obviously, and that was basically where my football started, was at Brentford.
And how? Your football started at Brentford, but not your playing side. It started at QPR. Is that right?
Yeah, playing. Yeah. So I was one of them at school. I played for all of them. Yeah.
And QPR must have been a bit of a team.
Yeah, it was then when obviously I went there I signed for schoolboys there as a 14-year-old and stayed there in the apprenticeship, and then my day came in 72, with a squad of players, which was unbelievable then, with the likes of Phil Parks, Terry Venables, Jerry Francis, Stan Bowles, Dave Thomas, a really up and coming club, and I was very fortunate, and they were extremely helpful. All the players, I've got great affection from all.
So and Dick, I'm going to do this a little bit for younger supporters. Terry Venables, former England manager. Phil Parks, he went off to is that West Ham?
West Ham after QPR, and England, obviously.
And they played for England. And Jerry Francis also played for England and was also manager at Exeter City for a while. So,
that's right. Yeah. I left Exeter just before Jerry took over. Yeah.
I was going to ask you that question because. So, who is your first manager at Exeter then?
At Exeter, it was Bobby Saxton.
Right.
Bobby come up from Plymouth, and then a few of us boys followed him. Colin Randall, myself, Johnny Hall. Yeah, Johnny Hall was already here. John Sims come after as well. So Bobby was the first one.
Yeah, hell of a player. Hell of a players, should I say? And John Hall had a health club in Exeter. Mr. John Sims used to score plenty of goals from my memory. And Colin Randall was I'm going to say a silky number 7, would you say? Yeah,
he's right. Yeah, he was my partner for quite a while from Plymouth and Exeter. We was quite a good set together. I used to run around kicking everybody, and Colin used to volley him.
I'm glad you said that because I know your style was very combative. So look, I'm gonna with your Plymouth thing. I picked up that obviously. How did it change? Did Bobby come to us because of a change at Plymouth, or did he want to? How did that come about?
Yeah, I think Bobby was basically coming to the end of his playing days, probably, and he was being in the side and out the side, and I think he thought he could just further his playing career a little bit further by coming up here, and all of a sudden, I think the situation was similar to mine, really. He found himself in charge of the team. I think, I'm not sure if it was Johnny Newman had gone or somebody had gone, the manager, and Bobby stepped in to take over.
Bobby did really well. He was a good young upcoming manager now. It's coming back a little bit because, again, I was 6-7 years old, so it's hard for me to remember some of this. But he went on, didn't he, from Exeter? He got a good job.
He went. Yeah, Bob did. He went back to Plymouth then, and had a really good spell down there as manager. And then I think he went to Blackburn. I think he took over there. And then after that, up to even now, I think he'd done a lot for Manchester City as a scout and done a few bits and pieces for them over the years.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So he went on very well. Like, yeah, Bob, he was a lovely fellow.
So and then the next manager I think was is it Brian Godfrey?
Brian Godfrey then, yeah. Brian Godfrey came in from obviously an ex-Aston Villa player. Brian was a very similar to myself, probably really, really hard tackling midfielder. But he was just like to play football. Like he liked to play a bit free flowing, and we had some good spells, which obviously run involved with that as well.
And I'm going to say good spells, right? That's a slight understatement. So I've been looking through, and we're gonna focus on the FA Cup run. And by the way, there is a picture on my wall upstairs in this house from the 1980-81 game at Spurs away, right? And what an incredible achievement! And I actually, my memories are a little bit dull on these games, but I think we should talk through the road almost to Wembley, as I'm going to call it. And actually, in those days, you wouldn't have been one game from Wembley, would you? Because they didn't play the semi-finals at Wembley at the time, did they?
No, that's right. No, that's still just a one-off game right then. I think semi-finals. Yeah.
So there you are in central midfield. And the first game of the cup run, I was there, 5-0. Little Leatherhead, bless them. Played in green and white. And my memories of the game were they played in green and white, a very tiny team. And you battered them, didn't you? Your team.
Yeah, we did. It was all about Kells and the Leatherhead Lip, I think he was called. Their centre forward who scored a lot of goals, and obviously Kells had as well. So it was built up as a battle between them two, which Kells won very easily on the day. But that was the first game, yeah.
And I'm not trying to discredit Leatherhead because they were an up-and-coming non-league team at the time. So then that's a home game, right? And I'm going to particularly talk about the travels and the logistics about this, because then you went away to Maidstone. I didn't go, but you ran out 4-2 winners away from home. Good result.
Yeah, that was a game.
And can I ask, in those two games, remind me, did you score? I'm assuming you may have scored in these games.
No, I don't think so. No, I think I left that to the others on those two games, I think.
So you've done a long run to Maidstone. You've then done another long run to Millwall away, my wife's family's club. And I'm assuming Millwall were above us or a tough team to beat at the time.
Yeah, I think they was in the division above, I think, but I've always said to people, I think that was our best result of the cup run, to be honest. There wasn't many teams that went down to the Millwall, and got a result and come away. But we scored. I think Pete Rogers scored late on in the game, and of course, we hot-footed out there very quickly, as most teams do.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
That was a real good result for us. Yeah, I always say it was the best one.
And also at the time, you've touched on it, Millwall was not a pleasant place to go in the early 80s, I would imagine, with football culture as it was. So you've had two away games, one home game. You then go to Leicester City, Filbert Street that was, drew 1-1.
We played really well that day. They was the first division side then and doing quite well. They had a manager, a Scottish manager, Jock Wallace, who's brought his side. It's just been hard to beat. And but we went there on the day and certainly deserved our draw. And of course, in those days, you got replays as well. So that was the thing. And it was always on the Tuesday or Wednesday straight after the game. So we didn't have long to prepare, but we got them back home and absolutely done a good job. And with Kells getting the hat trick.
Indeed. And actually, I've got to tell you, by this point, I am now about 9 years old. And I know my dad has just found Quat Pod because my brother's shown him the Alfie Pond one. Right, Dad, if you're listening, I really wanted to go to this game, and you never let me go to that one. But and I also wanted to go to Newcastle away. So we've taken Leicester to a draw and beaten them at our place. You've then gone to Newcastle, who were not their best at the time, but still a great team, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, to go there, like, it was 50,000 there that day as well, like, going into the pit up there. And again, like, we way above our performances, like, when we played up there. And again, we got a late goal, like a late equaliser, Lee Roberts, I think, and we brought them back down to St James's Park. Yeah.
And a centre half goal, he completely knocked himself out in the process, didn't he?
Yeah. He went a bit scatty, didn't he? Yeah, he was quite pleased with it, but
a bit scatty. No, I've heard some interesting stories about Newcastle away from a big shout out to Bob Ems if he's listening to this one, and if he isn't, I will make sure he gets a copy, because apparently it was a little bit of an interesting run back to the station to get home for the Exeter fans. Because am I right in thinking there would have been that football special was run to Newcastle that time?
I think it was like, most of them like went up on the train, and I don't think any of them had a very good journey up and back. Like, I think it was really cold on the train. I think all the lights went out and things like that, and it was a total disaster from start to finish, I think. So I think they was more than pleased that we got the equaliser and they could get back home.
And it was always going to be a difficult tie for them. Can I ask, logistics-wise, with all these, because I may have got this wrong, but the M5 wasn't built then, was it? Is that right?
Oh, not properly. When I first went to Plymouth, like the A38, that wasn't built. That was still the old road.
Right.
And all our away games at Plymouth, like our first stop was at the Beefeater in Exeter for breakfast. And
really?
then we used to stop at Bristol and then Birmingham and whoever was after that, like, yeah. So, and then obviously the same with Exeter, like, yeah. So they was all good trips.
and you know what? With all these away games, and for our younger supporters, the motorway wasn't there. It was a painfully. It was a route of endurance. It's got to be said. And I think away fans culture that we have now, where more people travel, wasn't going on either. But then saying that, Newcastle, I think we took about 1,000, didn't we, up there? Is that right?
Oh, we must have done more than that, I would think. Yeah, on the day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had a real good following, and where Newcastle, many people know it, they were stuck right up in the corner, up the top, like, in this little stadium, like the 49,000 bloody Geordies, like there.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that was in the old ground before. Yeah. Sorry, the ground, but it was a slightly different looking ground.
Absolutely, yeah, like they all were. But when we got them back, and they were quite unique as well, because on the replay, like, they actually flew from Newcastle down to Exeter.
Did they?
Their trip was a lot better than ours, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a shame. Now, I'm going to say, right, I did go to this evening match. This was my first ever midweek evening match, because I think me and my brother, my older brother, would have absolutely, not spoken to our father again if he hadn't taken us. So picture the scene. The big bank didn't have a roof on and was bigger. It had a temporary stand put up at the back of it to increase the capacity. You had the old cow shed with the bank so that you were much higher than the players. You had the old grandstand where the Adam Stansfield was, and you had a big open away end, right? And bearing in mind we had a 7,500 inverted commas sellout the other day. How we got 18,700, was it?
Absolutely, yeah.
How did that happen?
It all amazed us, like, yeah, all of us, like, we just could not believe it, really, seriously. And we got there quite early as well, about 5 o'clock, I think, before the kickoff, and then, like, it was absolutely rammed. They was up trees, up pylons, and God knows, everywhere. Health and safety were at the field day that day.
Yeah, and we had another elevated stand with the houses with all the roofs that I know some people get on the FA Cup, but that literally were loads of people on those roofs, weren't there?
Oh, it was crazy, yeah. And that portable stand behind the goal, like, I mean, now that ever stood up, I'll never know. Like,
yes,
but then, it was such a great atmosphere. It was fantastic on the night.
It was, and for Exeter fans, if you think Gillingham away, right, the stand that we go in at Gillingham away, and then take out the health and safety by about 50%. Yeah, and that's what happened at that game. It got taken down, didn't it, straight afterwards?
Oh yeah. It was only put up for that one, and down it come. Yeah, I don't think it took long to get it back down.
it was probably Apex or RGB or somebody put that up for us. So there you are. You've got a full ground, right? What's going on in the dressing room? What was the team talk like? You remember?
Well, I think basically we was all buzzing, really. Like, we got them back there, and the crowd was waiting. And I mean, Rob Bryan's point of view, the manager, I mean, it was a matter of, going for broke, really. We had to get out the blocks quick and unsettle them and get into them, like, and to be honest, it did. That's what we did, and they looked frightened to death, when they come out, really. I mean, after the first 10 minutes, they were totally gone. We just went on from there, really.
Yeah, and picture the scene at the end. So we're 4-0 up, right? People have jumped off the cowshed onto the bank. They wouldn't allow this anymore. Most people had fallen down the bank, right? And when I think that referee blew his whistle, you probably ran for your life, didn't you?
We never got far. Yeah, we was all counting one another in, and ones in the dressing room, like, trying to make sure we all got back in. But it was, I think most of us got carried home anyway that night. Yeah,
I'm going to say you got, because and this would never happen now, because the referee would give up 4-0. He blew a whistle for a free kick. And there was a mini pitch invasion, wasn't there?
That's right. Yeah, that's right, near the end. Yeah, they were ready to come on. Yeah. And
it took a couple of minutes to clear the ground, and then he just blew the whistle pretty much straight after, didn't he?
Yeah. And he was the first one in the dressing room, I think, as well.
I'll bet.
But it carried on quite a bit, because during that one, it was on Match of the Day. It was a Wednesday night, and it was the only cup tie, so it was televised.
Yeah.
And afterwards, like, we went down to a place down on the quay, which we knew in Warehouse, and they played it all back there with all the fans in there as well, and us.
Really?
And we had a quite a carry-on evening then, like, afterwards as well. So.
And I'm gonna touch on the drinking and smoking culture. It was a little bit different then, wasn't it? So
a little bit more relaxed.
A little bit more relaxed. Yeah. What was the phrase? Win or lose, we're on the booze. Is that right?
Yeah. That was Brian's actually favourite. That was, he brought that into the club. So I don't think we upset anyone by doing it, but no, we had some good times at the right times. Yeah.
So we beat Newcastle 4-0, which was a big result. And by the way, there have been multiple times in my life, I want you to know, where I've spoken to an older Newcastle fan, and I've mentioned I'm an Exeter fan, and I can see they go white with the pain. I've actually spoken to 2 people that were in that away end that day, and apparently it's one of the lowest ever moments. That was, just so you know. So, and for my mate who's a Newcastle fan, I'm going to move on at that point. So, Spurs away, cracking draw.
Yeah, we, really wasn't disappointed. Like, it was a good draw away. Like, I think going back on it all, like if we'd been drawn at home, like it might have been a bit of a different game for them. We was really wanting it at home, but we went there full of confidence. Like we had a good spirit inside.
Yeah,
and I mean, even after the Newcastle games, I say, early in the morning. I mean, my phone was going from 7 o'clock in the morning. People wanting tickets for this type of game, and it went on and on from there. And again, like that, I think that the old City went in the end. Like, I mean, it was really good following we had there. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say to my dad, I didn't go, and thanks, Dad, if you ever listen to this. But a friend of mine went. He was a Tottenham, big Tottenham fan as well. He's a massive Exeter fan, big Tottenham fan. He's been to see Spurs play at Champions League finals and lose, and he got me into football. Now his thoughts of the game were actually it wasn't until Mr. Ian Pearson got injured.
That's right. Yeah.
That we started to struggle. Is it fair to say?
Yeah, that's a fair comment. Yeah, I think for about an hour, like we done ourselves good. Like we was there, and we was in the tie, and Ian got a bad back in his face and had to go off, and I think it did just disrupt us a little bit. Although at the time when you had Crooks and Archibald up front, Tottenham at that time, and we kept them quiet, and the two centre halves scored the goals, so that was pretty upsetting. But
I'm gone blank now. Did Steve Perryman
score? Yeah. Steve was playing. Yeah.
Steve Perryman, former director of football.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you two have spoken about that game.
Yeah. I think we've had a little view on the game when Steve first came down. Yeah. But he remembers it as that. I mean, for 60 minutes, it was quite a tough game for them. And as I say, unfortunately, it was a couple of the centre halves that got their head on a couple of things, and unfortunately, that was it, 2-0. So
it just went in. And by the way, they shout out for Spurs. They did go on to win it that year, so we were beaten by the winners, weren't we? So that made us feel better. So, so some cheeky questions then, just for a bit of fun. Yeah. Did you get a big bonus for winning on that? Get the cup run? Did that sort of come
through? Our bonuses was obviously geared to the league. That was not really. No, I think we got. I'm not sure if that was a year that we went to Spain for a week afterwards. I think at the end of the season. Yeah, I'm sure it was after that cup run. Yeah, it was one season. So yeah, we had a director, a couple of directors, and one people might know. Gino had the spaghetti house in town.
Yes.
He was a director, and he set up this. I think it was a trip to a week in Spain, which was quite nice.
Brilliant. And if football's a different world then, and genuinely, wasn't it? Because there wasn't the media, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't the communications weren't so easy. What was the media like? Did you find that the Match of the Day came down and filmed a lot?
Yeah, they done a couple of games, obviously during the cup run and that, and it was. Well, the media room was the boot room. It was an old boot room, drying room in the old dressing rooms. So I don't think the commentators enjoyed it too much. But yeah, it was a different world with the technology and stuff as it is now. I mean, we were far behind. It was a small Exeter club, like as you say, with the cowshed and the bank behind the goal. And even when I started at QPR, it was like that. One of their sides was a mud bank. I mean, now that place grew and grew. It was incredible, really.
And a little shout out: the training ground that's just been demolished. Was that was your training building, wasn't it?
We was the first ones to go in there. When they took it over, and I don't think it changed much over the years. But I mean, it was a pit, to be honest. I mean, the pitches outside weren't too bad, but the changing rooms and showers and stuff like that,
Yeah,
you had to dodge 8-legged things quite often.
so a little shout out to people about the training ground, right? That's been that we got a good 40 years worth of use out of that training ground as it was. Have you been to the new training ground yet?
I haven't yet. No. I definitely like to have a visit out there. Yeah, yeah, I will go.
And get a meal from the chef.
I'm chef as well. Yeah, there you go.
Look, it's great that we talked about the cup run because it gave a lot of people a lot of joy. And that team was of an age where, obviously Kells was there, Golden Boot winner. But not only that, the other players around the team. And I just want to say, the scarf that they have all your names on. Yeah. I lost mine on the M25 when I opened the window once. And a big shout out on this podcast. If anybody's got one, I will give a serious donation to the Exeter City Supporters Trust for return. Sorry. So I thought I'd get that in. Right. Are you a trust member? Curious.
No, no. I should be.
Right, yeah. It should be, in a nice way. Get involved. Yeah. But then saying that, I know that you do get involved because you regularly go to hospitality, don't you? And you're still up the club and getting involved, aren't you?
Yeah. We say regularly, like there's 6 or 7 of us, the older boys, that go up there and meet every home game. And have been on, around the stadiums and done talks and bits and pieces like that, which is really nice and keeps us involved and stops us going senile at our old age.
And I'm curious. Have you done any talks for the academy players and stuff?
Not the academy players, no. I've done ones with the senior Reds a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
but not actually around the academy or anything. No,
that's interesting because I always believe, I'm a firm believer that the history of the club, you get it in there, and
sorry,
that's right, nice. I think John's getting a phone call for a new management job, or
there you go. Yeah,
he's been asked to pick up his boots for play against Plymouth.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'm just glad it wasn't my phone. It's all right.
Funny enough, you talked about other players, what we're doing. That is Len Bond, actually, was on the phone then.
Is that Len Bond? Oh, you should have asked.
That was Len Bond asking, seeing where we're meeting tomorrow.
And sorry, for the benefit that don't know, Len Bond, cracking goalkeeper, part of the team. And I've also sat the other day, the Accrington game was just unbelievable. That's when we met for the first time properly. And all the stars aligned because I've got Danny Bailey, Brian McDermott, I've got you in front of me, I've got Len Bond, and I've just sat there thinking there's no better place. The sun was out. It was a great day, wasn't it, the Accrington game?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was.
What do you think of the team now? What do you think? Who are your favourite players?
I mean, they're progressing well. Yeah, I mean, I think they've done for a first season up. It's hopefully they're in a position where they wanted to be. I think really, and then hopefully the second season syndrome comes, and hopefully they can carry on from there rather than go backwards again. But I think they're more than capable. Yeah, beating most of the sides in that league, from which they have done. Yeah, and entertained quite well. They play some nice football.
I think we played some really good football.
Yeah.
And having not missed many games this season, we're also showing a bit more. I think we play better away sometimes. But it's interesting. On one young players to watch from the really young ones. Have you seen any of them play?
Well, I like the boy that's just come in, like the left back Mitchell, is it?
Yes.
He looks pretty exciting, and the boy Kite, the youngsters that have come through the academy. They're doing really well. Yeah, they seem to, give them a chance. Obviously, they're well capable. They give young kids a chance, and they're taking it quite well. I think the future looks pretty rosy. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And hopefully, with the training ground, players will want to come and play for us as well because I mean, if you haven't, have you seen any of the media stuff of it? It looks exceptional.
Is it? Yeah. No, I haven't seen any of it. No, it's obviously due a visit from me. Yeah.
So when you arrived from Plymouth to Exeter, did you move from Plymouth to Exeter, and in shared houses, or did you get a house?
Yeah, well, it was when I first came, like we was in a flat in Crescent Mansions for a while, like, you know, but which was in the middle of town around Magdalen Road there. And we was there for a while, 6 months odd, and then obviously we found a house and bought a house then, like, yeah. So basically we did that, like, in those days, you know, if you move clubs, like, you moved as well, like, you know, you didn't sort of travel from here, you know, up the road. You know, I did for a couple of weeks. I went from Plymouth to Exeter for a little while until we found somewhere. And then you moved up, and that was it. I think that's why a lot of us are still around. Like, you know, we always liked the area and never moved on. Once we found a place here, we stayed.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if I just go flick back to my notes, you went up to Hereford following Exeter, didn't you?
Yeah,
and then Gloucester City. Were you commuting up there at the time?
Again, like the Hereford thing, I travelled up to start with. Again, we was in like a bed and breakfast place up there with some other new players, right? And then eventually, obviously, we moved. Like, we bought a house and moved up there. And Gloucester, I just travelled across because it wasn't far.
Yeah, it's not far, is it?
Like, yeah, so it wasn't far. And then obviously, we moved back to Exeter, like, after that. So yeah, it was wherever you went, like, you know, all the players did. They all tend to move, buy houses and move, and then move back again, or where the next place was.
But you did settle in one of the best places. So, and can I ask, what have you done outside of football, between football and
outside? Yeah, it's, I'd say that come a big shock to us all, really. Like, you know, when the days finally come. But I went probably to the old route of pro footballers then, like, you know, in the lower leagues, and taking on pubs and nightclubs, which I did in Exeter. And anyway, I've worked for Royal Mail. Not as an outside postie, I'm an inside one, yeah.
Right, okay.
And, and the last couple of years, unfortunately. Yeah.
And Mr. Hatch is a postie, isn't he? Mr. Peter Hatch, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. Pete was, and Keith Bowker.
Really?
Yeah, there was a few. Bob Wilson, who we lost a couple of years ago. Like, Bob was a postie as well. Yeah, so that seemed another natural route for the boys here.
But you know what's really nice, and I was really pleased about when I met you in hospitality, and I know I tried not to disturb you, but I did sort of tap you on the shoulder and ask gently if I could do an interview. Right, I'm really pleased to see the close bond that you guys have still got. Right, it's really, really special, and you know, I don't think our younger fans will appreciate what that cup run was like, because we were swashbuckling lower league team. We were giving it some, weren't we, on that as we went through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, and it's I say even when some of the boys have gone away and come back again, like, you know, it's still stayed there. Like, you know, we say it's our little meeting point, really, and especially say as we're all getting a little bit older now, like, and unfortunately we have lost a couple of boys on the way. It's all been good, you know, and over the last year or so, I've had cancer. I've had diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I haven't been too well the last 18 months.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so and the boys have always been there. They was always on the end of the phone, like, seeing how I was and things like that. And and it's just good. It's just something we've got and we'd like to keep, really.
And do you know what? And this is one of the reasons I want to do this, because I wanted people to hear firsthand the memories of when I was a child, right? And I'm sorry to labour this. I was 10, 11, 12. You guys hooked me, absolutely hooked me. And, you know, you had a great effect on people. Tomorrow, the big game. This might not go out before the game. I'm not sure yet. What's your thoughts on Plymouth? They're going well, aren't they?
Well, yeah, just a little hiccup last week, didn't they? Really, which put some bit of spanner in the works there. So they'll be, you know, on the front foot, I think, tomorrow. And obviously the boys as well. Like, they've had a couple of bad results against good sides, I suppose. So this one's, I think, probably come at the right time. They both want it really, and it's just usually a good encounter. And I think whoever starts on the front foot, I think, is going to be the ones on the day. So I think Exeter have got to be up and running right from the off.
Indeed, and this is the call to arms if this does go out, right? Every City fan should do their duty wherever you are in the ground, because I'm going to be on the big bank, John.
Yeah.
And I will be, as you look at the goal, slightly to the left of the goal, up midway a little bit. And I intend to lose my voice. And let's, if you're able, not you, stand up and sing all that sort of stuff. Let's get it out there, yeah, because I think it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it's going to be a big part of the crowd. It's they've got to be from the off as well, and get the boys G'd up and get them going. Yeah,
which we will. Look, John, I am so pleased that you came on and gave some time to this.
Yeah.
I can't tell you honestly, and hearing the players you played with at QPR as well. Wow, they were amazing. By the way, for those who don't know the history, that was a proper QPR team. They were probably one of the best QPR teams that QPR had at the time.
Yeah.
And you were certainly part of the best, I think, Exeter Cup team ever. And I don't think it will. Well, I hope it will be repeated. So, can I just say thanks for coming on Quad Pod?
Absolutely.
And when I'm next in hospitality, which isn't very often, I shall look out for you and give you a handshake. Up the city, yeah?
Yeah, God bless, yeah. Up the city.
Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Al. Thank you very much. Bye.
So there you have, close of the show. John Delve, a great interview there. Former caretaker Exeter City manager, former captain, former Plymouth Argyle player, but has found his home at Exeter and now spends a lot of his time upstairs match day and hospitality with, I believe they call themselves the Magnificent Seven, and it's just a group of mates that love playing for Exeter, and they now spend their time watching and following Exeter City. It really is an extraordinary character, a London boy from Ealing, and found a life down here, ended up as a postman to keep himself fit, and he has absolutely enjoyed life down in the West Country. And the best part of that for me was he was, the FA Cup run. I can't tell people how good that was and the feeling around the club. I tell you, to see 18,000 plus in what is St James Park now, almost is, just take a minute to consider that. We had the old grandstand, we had an open away end, we had a huge big bank, and we had an old standing cowshed area. So thanks, John. You were absolutely brilliant. I also want to put a couple of shout outs. We're still getting loads of subscribers coming through. Thank you so much. But particularly, if you haven't listened to it already, Aussie podcaster Giles Beattie came over with his family for the Plymouth game. There will be a photo going up on the Twitter account. He, I think, was having quite an emotional day coming back to Exeter and seeing so many people he knew. So well done. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks again to John. And we'll be in touch. We'll see you soon. Take care. Enjoy the beautiful game.